Hello, and welcome to the Millennial Nutritionist podcast. I'm Isla Garcia, master's degree of nutrition science and registered dietitian, and I'm going to make weight loss realistic, sustainable, and uncomplicated for your busy lifestyle. On this podcast, me and my team of registered dietitians will decipher the latest nutrition research, dissect bad diets, and discuss social media trends for you so you can feel confident knowing what to eat to achieve your health goals. Research suggests that most weight loss programs aren't successful, but my experience has taught me that this is not because the participants aren't committed. It's because those diets are designed by non-nutrition professionals and center around severe restrictions. We are here to provide the facts about the science of weight loss so you can have the success you want and continue living your best life. Hello, and welcome back to the Millennial Nutritionist podcast. My name is Isla, your founder, CEO, and host, and today I'm going to talk to you about breakfast. I'm excited about this episode because I spent a lot of time working on it since I have a lot of time right now. I am done with clients, officially finished Tuesday of this week with my last client call and just kind of helping Maggie transition and then just working on things that are fun to work on, like content for Instagram and reels, things that I typically don't really get to because I'm working on more back end things and things for clients, but now I can kind of work on this. And we have an induction date set for 10 days from today. So, unless she comes early, we're at 10 days away from everything and things are looking good so far. So it's kind of crazy. And I'm glad that I've had the time to do this. And that I have this because it's kind of helping pass the days by. I don't know what people do that are actually on maternity leave that literally do nothing or don't have any worky things to do, because I feel like it is kind of helping me to have some little thing to do. But anyway, all that to say, I put a lot of effort into this episode. We haven't really done a breakfast episode. I believe we've had breakfast content on other platforms. So I do want to say that in Millennial Living, we have a 5 breakfast tips, which I tried to not repeat a whole lot of the information on there. A 5 breakfast tips video, that's older, that I can link. Then we also have lots of breakfast recipes in our 1-to-1 program. So if you're a client of Maggie's, I guess would be the only option, then you can access those. Or if you're a previous client, save them. Remember that we had them for you. And then also I uploaded, I think a month ago, a just YouTube video on my top meal ideas for weight loss. And I have some breakfast ideas in there if you feel like you struggle. So I can link all that below in the description box or show notes, wherever you're kind of absorbing this information at. As far as announcements for us as a company, there's still 1 spot left for Maggie's discount. So she's filled 2 of the spots. 1 of the spots are left for $100 off the total price, however you end up wanting to pay. And Maggie's great. She's been with me for a long time. So out of all the people that I've ever hired, she probably is the one with the most experience, or at least behind the scenes. She is a licensed dietitian. I've been getting that question a lot. I waited until she passed her RD exam, and then asked if she kind of wanted to help me out with some clients in case anybody kind of came through wanting to work with me, or any coach. She still follows the same program. She's seen me do it for a long time. So she'd be great to work with. And then lastly, for Millennial Living, we have a new challenge this month, and it is breakfast themed. So I just want you to be thinking a little bit about your breakfast. Think about how you can make it a little bit healthier and upload pictures. You just have to upload 3, and then you're entered into a drawing to win a $25 gift card of wherever you want that I can send you electronically. I've already uploaded a breakfast prep guide for some ideas of some items if you want to prep them in advance for breakfast. That is uploaded for you, and then just stay tuned for subsequent things. I really hope, I was thinking I would need to prep a bunch of stuff for Millennial Living, but I'm just going to try to truck through and see. And I feel again, all these little things are kind of helping me break up the day in a different way and really helping the day pass faster. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but I'm going to see if I can continue to post and everything in August. If not, I can always repost or repost old content, since we have a lot of content on there. But for right now, we're going to truck through, and I'm going to see if I can just continue to post new stuff for you. But getting into the overall breakfast weight loss guide, comprehensive approach to breakfast, I've kind of broken this up into a couple different areas that I'm going to talk about. So we'll go into a little bit of an intro, why it's even important, what can breakfast even help with, how overall to build a healthy breakfast if you're like completely starting from scratch, correcting breakfast that I commonly see where people go wrong, and habit problems as well. Those are kind of like my 3 or 4 chunks. So here we go. Let's dive in. So first, for overall, breakfast can't really like solely help us lose weight, right? Like I was looking for research because I normally don't have time to look into research studies, but it is split. Like some research says that breakfast helps you lose weight and some doesn't. And because I've worked with clients over the past 4 years, I can say that I agree with this. Like tend to, some people don't need to eat breakfast and they lose weight fine. And then some people, it really makes or breaks their progress. And I don't think there's much of any, like there might be some actual science behind like the metabolism behind it. But I think when I think about clients, oh my gosh, it's so hard to do these podcasts when I'm so out of breath. So sorry. When I work with clients, what I see is that it tends to help people just to have some sort of like intentionality behind it. If you're trying to lose weight, like if you feel like you don't need to lose weight or you feel like you're good, I wouldn't say really like switch things up with all the things that I'm getting ready to tell you, just because like if what you're doing is working, there's no reason to change anything, then don't. I assume that's not why you're listening to this podcast episode. But all that to say, I don't want you to like fixate on breakfast because like I said, some people and even the research suggests that it helps people lose weight. And there was actually one study, not to be too discouraging, but I found a study or an article from Harvard that talked about how it actually caused some people to gain weight because if you're adding a meal to what you eat day to day and you don't already eat that meal, then it's going to add calories and it's going to make you gain weight. I feel like this is so true for comparing like me and my husband because of our eating patterns. Like him and I feel like a lot of his family, they don't eat breakfast. They didn't grow up eating breakfast, where our family did. We loved eating breakfast. And so for me, if I don't eat breakfast, I feel like I do end up gaining weight because I'm so hungry. Sometimes in my head, I think it's an excuse to like, oh, I skipped a whole meal. I can like eat more things throughout the day. Or for him, it's literally just like he adds on a meal. So it adds on like 500 calories to the day. So don't force a change if you feel like you are going to like end up backtracking. But another study did show that eating more protein at breakfast can help decrease your hunger hormones for the whole day. They even saw, I think I found one study and I'll link them, that it did help people lose 11 pounds. So this one study that I found helped women eating breakfast, helped them lose 11 pounds versus people that didn't eat breakfast over the course of 12 weeks. So again, conflicting information. And I think it just kind of comes down to people are different. People's habits are different. What helps them to lose weight is different. How people's metabolism work different. So take all of what I'm going to say with a grain of salt and do what works best for you. Now, without that caveat, what can breakfast actually help with? Like, why would I even make an episode about this? Why should you maybe consider updating your breakfast or changing your breakfast or adding a breakfast if you're not already doing that and you're trying to lose weight? Well, first of all, I think it can really help you to stay fuller for longer. If you find that you get really hungry or you are like finding that you end up like eating a donut at 10 o'clock at work is what I see people do, because you're putting something in your stomach, it is going to help you to stay fuller if that is a problem for you. So just plain and simple, help you to stay fuller. I do find too, when people tell me that they don't eat breakfast, when we start looking at what they're actually eating, at least for the clients that I work with, I find that they do end up eating something, whether it's like coffee or a breakfast bar, or they end up eating like a snack at 10, like that's still breakfast. So really maybe examine that you're actually like what you're actually doing before that lunchtime. Even if it's a snack, I mean, you can eat a bunch of snacks and it can add up to 1,000 calories. So assess what you're actually doing. And even if it's not a formal breakfast, you might still be eating something in that breakfast time. So if you're doing that, just make it structured anyway, so that what you're eating at least is going to help you to stay fuller. I think it's also an opportunity to get more produce and protein in for the day. This is what I see a lot with clients, is when they don't eat something for breakfast, when they first wake up, they find it really hard to meet their produce and protein goals, which I can link the podcast episodes that we've worked on to talk about why that's even important. But if you're a previous client, you know, that it can be hard to get in those 5 to 6 servings if you're not starting with something at breakfast. And especially with protein, it can be really hard to get the around 100 grams that most people need for weight loss if you're only eating 2 meals a day. Do you feel like you're tired of trying every new diet out there whenever you're ready to lose weight, but you never really find long-term success because it's either too restrictive or just not conducive to your lifestyle? Well, then let me tell you about our 3-month lifestyle reset program. This is an individualized weight loss approach where you'll be going through our proven 6-step method and you'll be led by a registered dietitian. By becoming a client of the program, you'll be able to learn how to control your weight, increase your energy and confidence, and also improve your overall well-being. Not to be dramatic, but a lot of clients tell us that they actually change their lives by going through the program and finally find a sustainable weight loss solution when they actually haven't found that with any other program. If you are interested in becoming a client, sign up for a discovery call on our website, themillennialnutritionist.com, with me, Isla Garcia, and I'll help match you with one of our registered dietitian coaches based off of your challenges and their nutrition expertise. If you're ready to find a sustainable weight loss solution in a non-judgmental and encouraging environment, I hope you'll connect with us soon. I think it can also start you off with the right mindset. That's another thing that I see a lot with clients is just, it seems a lot of people tell me that if they don't start off with a pretty good breakfast, they feel like the rest of their day ends up falling downhill. I think this is why a lot of people too end up working out in the morning because it just starts them off on like a good headspace of like, hey, I'm going to make this day a healthy day. And I feel like that too. I feel like if I start the day and I eat donuts for breakfast, the rest of the day, I'm like, well, what's the point? It's hard to recover. You also are kind of like starting to crave sweeter things when you eat something like that in the morning. So I think there's definitely something to it. And then also it gives you more energy. I mean, we eat to provide our bodies with fuel, with energy. That's why we are designed to want food to eat and want calories. And so if you feel like you're dragging in the morning, especially if you're working out in the morning or something like that, eating something, especially carbs, is going to help you to have some energy. It can help you be more focused. That's why it's important for kids to eat breakfast before school so they have some brain power. And there is something behind it. We start breaking down carbs right away. As soon as it goes into our mouth, we have enzymes that break down carbs. And so we can utilize that energy, especially in our brain, right away to feel more alert. Okay, so now that we know why we need breakfast or why it can be helpful if you're losing weight or wanting to overall be healthier, how do you actually build a healthy breakfast if you're completely starting from scratch? So 3 main components here that I can think of that I would tell clients. First of all, start with a protein. Like if you're not going to do anything else at all, I think doing some sort of protein can be the bare minimum thing that you put in. Again, it's going to help you to stay fuller. There's some research to suggest that it helps you to stay fuller all day by decreasing hunger hormones throughout the whole entire day. So some examples of protein that you could add in. If you're only going to do protein for your breakfast, that's all you can stomach, for sure doing some sort of like protein bar, protein drink can really help. Also eggs is, an obvious one. You could boil eggs and bring them. You could pick them up at Starbucks. Sometimes has like those hard boiled eggs, or doing some sort of like, omelet or egg white bite or something like that. I do see some people do like lox on their bagel. I was trying to think of a meatier option that I sometimes see is honestly that, and it's straight up protein. So that could be great. I'm kind of excited to maybe dive into that once I am done being pregnant and don't have to worry about that. And then yogurt, Greek yogurt is a really good way to have some protein in at breakfast. If you need to grab it and bring it to work, that can get the job done. Less popular options I see are cottage cheese is really high in protein. So you could do that with some fruit on top. I love doing it with honey and blueberries, beans, and maybe like a breakfast wrap. Or I even went through a phase where I was doing like huevos rancheros, and beans help provide the protein, and breakfast sausage. I'll kind of like continue to talk about that because I have clients that will add that into something, whether it's like their kids like it, so then they add it onto pancakes or something, but that gets the job done for protein as well. And the second component you want to add to your breakfast is going to be produce. So produce really helps us to stay full on a low amount of calories, which I say all the time. There's also so many health benefits to produce that I just don't typically get to because we are really talking about weight loss in this podcast. But produce you could add to things, veggies to an omelet. I'm always trying to tell people if you're scrambling eggs, you could add so much into that. You could add spinach, mushrooms, onions. You could put salsa on top. All that will help add a lot of bulk and fiber. So it will help you stay fuller for longer. And then raw fruit also can be really easy grab and go options: banana, apple, berries. And also, you could just add it to what you're already eating. Like I said, for people who are scrambling eggs, I'm always trying to recommend just like throw whatever vegetables you have in there. But especially for somebody doing something like oatmeal, you could add on fruit on the top. Even if it's just a half a cup, it's better than nothing. Smoothies, you can really pack with produce as well. And then if you can, a bonus thing to add to your breakfast will be some sort of high fiber carb or grain situation. Like, we're definitely going to get carbs from the sugar and the yogurt and the fruit, but straight up just like a starchy, savory ish, grainy thing will help you to stay full as well. So if you have the time to make a more comprehensive meal, this is the direction I want you to go, is to also add in some sort of like grainy, starchy carb. So some examples could be potato. I've recently had a revitalization for potatoes because they are really, really filling, and they're really not that bad for you as far as like calories, especially if you're just adding it to a breakfast item. Typically, the thing that's bad about potatoes is that we add a bunch of high calorie stuff to it, but you could easily pick up some breakfast potatoes. They're typically like minimally stuff is added, so it's going to be pretty low calorie. You can make a breakfast skillet for a meal prep for the week, or even like doing some breakfast potatoes can be really good. Oats is an obvious high fiber carb, whole whole wheat grains, like Justice for cereal like Raisin Bran and Cheerios. Those are whole grains, and I'll make an example of how you can make it more well balanced. But they are whole grains. They're going to have a lot of fiber to help you stay full. Other examples: pancakes, bagels, toast. You could always pick the higher whole grain option. And then lastly, whole grain old-fashioned grits. Again, Justice for these things that we used to think were bad. Grits, I love to make a breakfast bowl if I have time. And you could put like an egg on top and do like sauteed vegetables. You could like prep that at the beginning of the week if that sounds overwhelming, and then have it throughout the week. Or if you're like me and have all the time in the world right now, you can make like a cheesy grits bowl for breakfast, and that could be your whole grain. The old-fashioned grits are what's going to be whole, and that's going to help you to stay fuller. But correcting breakfast problems that I commonly see as far as like straight up meals. So I see a lot of people do oatmeal, which oatmeal is great. I've been loving oatmeal, but the problem with oatmeal can be that it's pretty low in protein. And if you're just doing an instant pack, you're pretty much only getting carbs, which is one part of the component, but carbs run through our body really quickly, and you're going to be hungry probably in about an hour if you're only doing like an instant pack of oatmeal. So what I would recommend is try to add a protein. So you could add milk to make it a little bit higher protein. You could also just like add a supplement either to the side, do a protein bar or a protein drink. You can also make an overnight oat situation with protein powder. Or also breakfast sausage is what I've seen some people do. Also, you want to add a produce. So if we're trying to think of those three components we want to add to breakfast, you could add a banana on top. You could mix in berries or apple, or the recommendations that I would come up with that I feel like taste good. But if you can think of other ones, totally go for it. For bagel and cream cheese, I see this a lot too, or people often just think it's like so bad to eat bagels. It's not bad. We can definitely build on it. We can build on anything. You could always just give me anything in the comments below if you want me to try to figure out how to correct it. But for bagel and cream cheese, we have a little bit of protein and carbs, but we want to improve the type of carb and the protein amount. So in order to do that, I would recommend switching to a whipped cream cheese. It's a higher volume. They put air in it, so it makes you kind of feel like you're getting the same amount, but it's going to decrease the calories. Add lox if you are up for it, because that adds a lot of protein. Doing even like a whole grain bread option is going to be a little bit higher in protein. So a lot of clients that I have that don't like doing meat, they'll do, especially like the Dave's Killer Bread bagels have, I believe, like a ton of protein in them, not even really added. It's just that you get more protein when you do whole wheat options, because the protein is typically taken out when they take out whatever they take out when they make it not whole wheat. Or also, if you really like the bagel part, I would just recommend maybe switching it to a breakfast sandwich. I do this sometimes. Actually, got a breakfast sandwich from a coffee shop this morning that's really high in protein because they had a bunch of stuff to it. But you could easily do it at home. If you love the bagel part, there's something like really nice about a bagel. You could do bacon, egg, and cheese. You could do avocado, and I don't know what else you put on there, like egg and bacon. You could add a lot of stuff and just treat it like a breakfast sandwich. And that way you're still getting the flavor of the bagel, but making it a little bit more higher protein. The next one that I see is latte and a pastry. So thinking of like people that go grab and go. I don't see it all too often, but when I do see it, what I tell people to do is maybe pick one or the other, just because we're not getting a whole lot of nutrition or like nutrient density with both of these options, but we're getting a lot of calories. And so in order to improve it, I think you might need to drop one or definitely drop the calories on one. So you could do like the latte and then pick something else from the pastry, like maybe do a breakfast sandwich, especially if you're at Starbucks, or even just like a fruit, or find a pastry that you can eat at home or bring with you and then pick up the latte on the way. You could also decrease the latte size. Lattes really aren't too bad because they have a lot of milk, but sometimes if you get like the super sugary ones, they're also going to have a lot of calories because of the sugar added. So if you're only doing like a latte, like no flavors, it's not that bad for you. It's a lot of times the sugar that we end up adding is the bad part. You could swap it to an iced coffee if you love the pastry part. That's going to help you to decrease the calories a little bit. And that's all my ideas for improving that. Two more. So pancakes with kids on the weekend. I see it often. And again, pancakes is one part of the equation, but we want to try to add protein and produce if possible. So how I would recommend you do this would be to, first of all, don't make the pancakes your whole meal, unless it's like a protein pancake that you're adding blueberries to. That could be a really well-balanced meal. You could also make it whole grain and then make it, not the whole meal, but add some sort of fruit and a protein. The fruit could be like you just put something on the side, do like a fruit salad. That could be fun for everybody. And then serve it with some sort of protein, like a protein shake. You could put yogurt on the side, or I've had some moms do, again, the sausage that could easily go with pancakes naturally. And picking light syrup is like my big hack for that. They just put the artificial sweetener in it, and however you feel about it, whatever, but it does help decrease calories. And the fifth thing that I see for younger people, maybe people without kids, is brunch with friends on the weekend, or even like after church brunch. Any sort of like eating out brunch can be a lot of calories. And people often are still surprised that if they do only like 2 meals a day on the weekend, they do like a brunch and a dinner, it still can be a lot of calories compared to their weekday. So some straight up just like ideas to order at brunch would be like the standard breakfast. They typically have like eggs, toast, side of fruit. That's not a bad option, to be honest, because we are hitting those three components. Maybe just make it a whole grain situation for the toast. A lot of places will do egg white veggie omelets as well. That's one of my go-to if I'm at like a really country diner. Places are normally able to make it an egg white omelet, and I just sometimes tell them to add all the veggies they can to it. Doing some sort of breakfast hash, especially if you're somewhere that's a little bit healthier, like Smartwatch, I think has one where they'll add a lot of vegetables. Again, you're getting the potatoes for the carbs. Avocado toast and fruit is another, like if you're at like a little bit of a healthier place, that I've seen that as an option. And then some tips, if you're getting something sweet, I would ask if you can split it as an appetizer. There's this place in Charleston that is like our kind of like go-to impressive place that is a diner, but it like overlooks the water. They don't really have much healthy there at all, but they always have these really good like cinnamon buns that are huge, or they have some sort of like crazy pancake. And I will normally ask if we can just like all split it, and then we all get like 2 bites of it. And that way you can still try it, but then I get like my egg white omelet to actually nourish me. And then just avoid the high calorie items, which I would say for eating out are like pancakes, biscuits and gravy, eggs Benedict, even to like acai bowls, chia pudding, and French toast. They'll tell you they're healthy, but a lot of times they make them way higher calorie than we would at home, because especially for like chia pudding, they normally put like coconut stuff in there, which is always high calorie. Acai bowls, like at home, we might only do like 3 fruits or 2 fruits or a fruit and a vegetable. And other places will do like 4 or 5 fruits. We can just make it super crazy high calorie. So I would just stay away from those things. My last point on breakfast, habits that I often see that people do have bad habits when it comes to breakfast. 3 of them. So first, I find that people struggle with breakfast because they don't have an appetite for it. Now, let's circle back to the very first point. If you feel like breakfast is literally just adding on calories to your day, don't do it. But if you can look at your day and realize that breakfast is kind of setting up for failure as far as like you feeling like, oh, I didn't eat a breakfast, so I can eat more calories later on, or you do get really hungry at night or something like that, um, maybe evaluate, maybe then work on breakfast. If you don't have an appetite for it, what I do often find, because when I was thinking, I don't think I've ever actually had a client absolutely do no breakfast and lose weight. I think it's definitely possible. But what I do find is that people who say they aren't hungry for breakfast maybe eat a really heavy dinner or they eat a really late night snack. And so they just wake up and they're not as hungry. And if this is you and you feel like it's causing you to gain weight, then look at that situation. And then often when you pull back in the evening, you're hungrier for breakfast. But if you don't have an appetite and you're wanting to try to start with something for breakfast, I would just start with like a protein shake or fruit. Typically, people can get down sweet things if they don't have an appetite, or even just like improving your morning latte, like just taking really small steps. If you're eating anything, see if you can take any of the tips and like slowly add something to it. Again, I find that oftentimes people who don't eat a breakfast, they feel like sick or nauseous when they eat it. And I don't try to force it on people. But if I find that they're really not meeting their protein or their produce goals and we need to work in a breakfast, those are the tips that I normally give. You don't have time or you're on the go, you want to, eat breakfast in the car, or you just feel like you don't have the motivation to get up or want to, which I totally get. Starbucks has a lot of really great options. So make sure you go check out our Instagram page because I'm like forever putting like Starbucks stuff on there. You could do a basic latte and they have applesauce packets there typically that would hit like 2 little groups. They have really good like breakfast wraps. So there's a lot you could do at Starbucks. You don't have to pick the highest calorie thing. And I think also putting a list in your phone of low calorie things you can get either at Dunkin', and again, you could get it from our Instagram, Starbucks, or any other like little grab and go places with the tips that I've already given you. And then third of all, maybe you're in a rut. Breakfast can be like kind of repetitive with the few things that we feel like we like to eat for breakfast. And so it's just some ideas for you is implementing a smoothie in the morning. I feel like every time clients get on the smoothie game, they are so impressed with themselves because you can pack a lot in there. You can feel really full. You can feel really energized, hydrated. There's so many good benefits about a smoothie if you can find some recipes you like. And of course, we have a lot of recipes in Millennial Living for that. Doing some sort of like skillet meal prep, especially with the fall coming up, that could be really fun. You could make it a sweet potato based one. You can make it a regular potato one. There's a recipe in Millennial Living that I do all the time. We're kind of coming to the tail end of summer and it's a zucchini recipe. And you can find zucchinis all year round, but it's technically only really in season in the summer. And that's a really fun recipe that I love to make at the beginning of the week and then just heat it up throughout the week. And then lastly, I would recommend to peruse the frozen aisle. Frozen breakfasts, I think, are one of the best frozen meals, and there's a lot out there, especially at like Costco, I think is a fun area to get some big frozen breakfasts if you are constantly doing grab and go for breakfast, like high protein pancakes or breakfast sandwiches or little frozen smoothie packs that you could throw in the blender with some sort of liquid can really help. So those are my ideas for you. If you feel like you're in a rut, or overall just like need some help with breakfast. Lordy, I hope this baby drops soon because I thought wasn't going to be so out of breath. But thank you so much for listening. I hope that this really helps you improve your breakfast if you feel like you needed it or inspired you. Hopefully I can put out another episode next Friday. These are kind of fun to spend the whole day on Friday working on it because it's like all I have to do right now. But if not, you can follow on Instagram and I'll keep you updated if this baby's here or not. And maybe I'll try to repost an old episode, but no promises. Bye. Thank you so much for listening to the Millennial Nutritionist podcast. For daily weight loss tips and nutrition information, you can find us on Instagram at the.millennial.nutritionist and on TikTok at millennial.nutritionist. If you find this information helpful, please subscribe to the podcast and share it with a friend who needs encouragement on their health journey. See you in the next episode.